Lost in the Forest. Know the Enemy. By Karl Artur Spitjens. 1. Introduction. What does it mean when you dream about a forest? What is the relationship between your dream, your life, and what this unconscious dream may represent for you, and you alone? Aren't we all curious about our dreams and what they mean? Certainly, we have asked or spoken about the experience with somebody, and wondered why we had this dream to begin with and what will it bring you in your life. What about the idiom "you can't see the forest for the trees" and what it represents to you? Once you sit down and think about it, your mind might reveal more about the meanings of the words than you at first suspected. In life, especially during those times when we are stressed or under a lot of pressure, we can't see the big picture because you have created a tunnel vision concept that prevents you from seeing the big picture that might have serious consequences or impacts on your life. 2. What I mean is, sometimes we are unable or too blind to see or understand what is standing or who is talking right there in front of you. Because you have your mind on other things, not quite as clear to you, giving you a foggy idea or not so clear indication that you are lost in details of your life or focused on one thought or problem. Complicating this situation just a little bit more, this state of mind might symbolize a fear of the unknown or unseen. The mere fact you feel lost in the woods is a strong indicator of something being missing in your life or a wish for a rebirth or renewal of the way your life is going at the time. A renewal of your inner spiritual spirit and how you see yourself. 3. Nobody likes to admit their weaknesses. Being lost or blind or confused is often perceived to be a weakness, thus we don't say much and remain silent. A regeneration of faith, spirit, or hope to find yourself. We seldom admit there are times when we mistrust our intuition and instincts, and stray off the path chosen for your destiny or dreams to succeed. To make matters more complicated, we often lose faith in God along the way and drift out farther than ever before until this feeling of hopelessness or despair sets in and brings you back to the reality that something is wrong or missing. This means you need to begin to explore your conscious and unconscious existence in life to find your way out of what might be a critical or perilous phase of your life or situation in your waking life. Finding a clearing, a direction, or a path to take you where you belong is essential to happiness and living with bliss and happiness. When we are lost like this, it is easy for the devil to invade your soul and create further inner conflicts that may set your soul on fire and the passion glowing, but not for the right reasons, as you defy God or His guidance and follow the evil wishes of the devil who fights hard to control 4. Your mind and give him your soul in return for many of his carnal related sins and pleasures. Thus a war has begun. A war between good and evil. What was once peace is now a state of war. A war that didn't exist when you followed the teachings of Jesus Christ, but when you got lost, you drifted into the arms of the devil. This war was declared because you failed to see the goodness of God and His commandments, and rather than submit to Him, you invited the devil into your heart. This war is not new. This war has been fought for centuries between good and evil and has been a part of humanity for a very long time. It is fought in every age group, every race and nationality on this earth. It is a battle of wills, a battle for power, and sometimes a fight for riches. Whatever the temptation placed before you, you will have to choose which is best for you. Some wars are fought for rights or freedoms, others are fought for greed, lust, or control of territories, valuable minerals, money, or other 5. treasured materials, or like many wars we have seen come and go, the control of human beings. But regardless, a war in our lifetime, and those before our existence, there has always been something to fight for this sad reality, wars have never brought peace as acclaimed by wise men and politicians of nations engaged in the art of war. Because of various reasons. Keep in mind, behind every war, every battle, and every skirmish, on the battlefield or inside the heart or soul, someone or something has developed a strategy to win and another has developed a strategy not to lose. The casualties are too numerous to mention, as collateral damage is common and often justified by this war. There always seems to be something worth fighting for. Such is the constant struggle between good and evil, and this is where one thing has remained true of every war fought, no matter where it was fought. One thing remained true of every war: there are winners and losers, and what role you played in this battle is significantly noticed by God, His angels, or the devil. 6. Hence, the role you play may require forgiveness or understandings. No, all is clearly understood when the struggle occurs in the darkness of evil. Not always is motive, reason, or manner chosen to fight the war. God, in the end, would take a look at what you did when fighting and determine whether you were with Him or the enemy. There are no easy choices, but when you choose to fight God, you are bound to stand alone and lose not only the battles, but the war. Choosing sides and creating strategies is the most important element of any war, no matter where it is fought. Looking back, we come to realize 7. What was gained and what was lost. Losing someone is even harder for me and many others. We are constantly reminded that death is real and part of life, and that the life we are given should never be taken for granted. It has been 50 years or so since the end of the Vietnam War, but I still hold on to those memories and many more lessons learned from that war. Whether I liked it or not, those experiences were molded inside of me forever. It was those lessons learned that shaped my strategies for my life. Confessing I have fallen off the path of righteousness a few times, I also admit defeat at times when I didn't submit to the Lord like I should have. Ironically, I find myself amazed at the perseverance, the willpower, and the strength to engage so many more battles since that time, including those skirmishes of today, whether it be mentally, spiritually, physically, or otherwise. What has burdened me most have been the matter close to the heart. In all reality, as a human being, we tend to make many errors in judgment and fight the wrong way as we slowly learn to fight the right way. 8. I am not talking about fights about money, control, or other materialistic things in life, but rather about relationships, love, compassion, kindness, and understanding. This was what our daily lives really deal with the most, and what we are really fighting against, to win personal battles on things you believe you must have or gain in order to sustain your own respect and dignity. Sadly. 9. That often means we stoop to a lower level God would want us to take, in order to win any battle and in the end the war, within us. Fighting a war without God is senseless and often results in failure to win anything worth fighting over. Those things you might have thought you won, are actually things the devil wants you to have or hold so that he can control you better and longer. Victories, real victories, don't come easy, and they certainly don't come by accident or what some claim to be your karma. Victories come from doing what is the right thing to do and asking the power of God to help you get it. Seeking help from God will give you the right reasons, strategies, and resources to gain a victory. Submitting to God and letting go of the devil is what is required for you to win anything for reals. James 4:7, drawing near to God. If you have worries, let God take over. Submit to God, but He gives us more grace. This is why it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. 10. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. This closeness, this asking for God's help will draw you nearer to Him. As you resist the devil, the more you ask God to help you in your problems, the less the devil wants to hang around. This is the key to survival, this is the strategy one should take to defeat the wars inside you and the ultimate fleeing of the devil inside you. If you ask God for help through prayer, you will find a single-minded strategy to defeat the devil. You will end the double-minded, tricky, deceitful mannerisms that have plagued your life and those around you. It will end. 11. The lies told or the deception on matters close to the heart and that need to be said with respect, sincerity, and mutual understandings. Without sounding too harsh about it, God does not like liars. Whenever you lie, God gets angry and the devil jumps with joy, realizing life is a disaster. 12. The moment you realize your life is a complete disaster, you look to blame somebody other than yourself. Sometimes we blame the dysfunction on a former spouse or partner. Sometimes, it is work or the way we spend our money and the lack of persona priorities in life. Regardless of the reasons found, you blame others. But when it's said and done, you rarely blame yourself for your own failures. So we defer. We quickly learn how to put off things or we postpone those little things to find the answers in our life. We wing it or deal with it at a moment's opportunity or pleasure, depending on the situation or condition. Avoiding responsibility, accountability, and the deniability that solving problems is your main goal in life, could lead to other bigger problems that will sneak up on you when you least expect them and overwhelm you with stress, anxiety, and depression. Along with postponing these things, you settle for lesser things in life. What you may not realize is that settling for second often puts you in precarious situations with your spouse of others in relationships. 13. Thinking you are giving yourself a break does nothing more than deflate your own abilities and keeps you from finding out what it is like to exceed expectations, especially your own. Blaming people, yelling at people and not listening to those around you, ignoring them, you decide that sometimes it is best to be alone and not be bothered with the problems of others. Shunning others and blowing off some steam while engaging in other activities that takes your mind from the real world momentarily is an escape we can all ill afford. Your mind is a wreck and the thoughts are impure, causing you to say or do things that are not only wrong but hurtful to others. All this is infectious and whoever is around you will either catch the fever or carry it to another person in their life. There is nothing really constructive about being mean, spiteful or selfish in manners. It is contagious and causes others to choose to either not be around you as much or stay away from you. It destroys relationships, whether it be family, friends or co-workers. 14. Without setting priorities in life, there is no way to find the light. This mortal journey we take each and every day has a purpose, and that purpose in all part of a plan that God has created for us. In reality, the favor of God cannot be bought, bartered, or bribed. It cannot be traded, manipulated, or sought with deception. He knows your true mind, and your heart will reveal the real truth of your intentions. When people come to Him, whether in prayer at home or at church, He can see their hearts and tell whether it is close or distant from Him and His words. When we are lost, we put on a show, or in some cases, our Sunday best, where we act the part of loving, living and saying we are all for the Lord and His commandments. We put on a superficial smile, we dress up nice and all in attempts to fake our way into the kingdom of heaven. But in reality, we become more distant from the Lord. We fail to impress anyone, including God, and Taunting him with our fake smiles and spirits, we are only making him angry and disappointed in our ways. 15. It is not our religion that makes us good people. It is our hearts, our souls and our intentions to please God with genuine sincerity that makes us blessed in the eyes of the Lord. God is looking for good people, not perfect people but good people with good hearts. He will seek out those who have a whole heart and a heart that is ready for His presence while casting out the devil in the process. Life, if fairly easy, we either seek Him or we don't. So in all reality, it comes down to who we are. We can fool ourselves and those around us, but we can't fool God. God surely knows the difference between real and fake, and so should we. Common sense has abandoned us. When we live in a disaster, it takes away the moral fiber we grew up with. And we should fight hard to find it again. Knowing your life is a disaster is the way you communicate with others. Instead of listening, you are constantly talking. Instead of asking questions, you are being rude and continually talking. Communication is about listening, and we seldom realize that when we are disorganized and frustrated with our lives. The lack of communication destroys trust, love, respect, and creates suspicions. 16. When we ignore what should be important to us for our own selfish needs or gains, we are merely jumping through hoops each day to satisfy ourselves and nobody else. Your life is a disaster when we take things for granted. Not just the materialistic things but the people in our lives as well. If we want to continue to live with happiness, we have to work on making others happy as well as ourselves. A balance that makes it a sharing combination that is flexible and gives and takes, so each are satisfied with the other. Treating each other with respect usually brings out meaningful conversations. Words that have a real meaning and not superficially charged to make impressions or brings an opportunity in your life to hear something new or refreshing. Listening is so much more than talking. We can learn more from listening to others than we can ever learn from ourselves. Life can be beautiful if you seek what you are missing. Living life to the fullest means being honest with yourself and respecting yourself, even when facing difficult times or challenges. It also means to trust the Lord in your blessings. 17. The good Lord never gives you more than you can handle, and if you experience difficulties in these challenges, all you need to do is ask Him for His help and He will be there for you. In our life, we have favorite things and favorite places. Seek out your comfort zones and use those positive areas to find your purpose, your meaning in life, and your goals that set your passion on fire and fills your heart with contentment. No matter where you are, no matter where you live, we have at least 3 places we come to daily: the place where we sit, like the living room; the place we eat, like the dining room; and the place we sleep, the bedroom. There should be another space for your mind, your soul, and spirit. You should find a place that could serve you as your prayer room. A room for solitude and thinking. It doesn't have to be big, fancy, or even decorated in any special way. All it has to do is give you space, time, and peace through quietness. For many people, the church gives them a prayer room that is far from plenty that you may need, but the truth is, unlike a prayer room, one can talk to God one-on-one in private without telling the world about your 18 troubles or struggles, if you talk to Him in a quiet, secluded prayer room. For me, that is any place that gives me solitude, stillness, and comfort. My prayer rooms of the past have been many different places. During the war, I found a peaceful moment on top of a sandbag bunker, when everybody was away and it was just me and the Lord talking. After the war, I found my prayer room inside a car as I chose to drive long distances alone in my car, to talk to God, one-on-one. I've good fond memories of other places like the rock house on top of the Sandia. 19. Mountains in New Mexico and even a trip to the Colorado River down in the lower parts of the Grand Canyon, that I sought to mend some fences with God as I had erred and done some things wrong. What I am saying is we all have disasters in our lives. We all have pain and sorrow. Life is about laughter and tears, a balance that is far from perfect but regardless, required to make it through the tough times we face each day we live. The older you get, the getting is harder. Facing the facts of life to negotiate it carefully and diligently, we have to keep our eyes and hearts open. We cannot forget to ask God to stay with us by our side, we cannot forget to live the wise words we were taught when we were young and found them comforting along the way to the golden years. Sometimes, through confusion or neglect, we forget the deeds or memories that got us where we are today. What is fascinating about life is that you are never too old to learn a new lesson and you are never abandoned by God to ensure you learn it right. Inside our head, we all have memories. Memories that we can dream about and savor for the happy moment they gave us. Even when things 20 weren't going so well, we have memories to reflect back to those days so we remain humble, and never forget we are mortal and human. Looking back, it is a reminder that no matter where you traveled, no matter what you did, God was always with you or a part of you as you traveled through time and space, traveling the road of life that reminds you that God is still in control of you and others, that fill your life with joys and happiness that encourages you to live life to the fullest. It's those moments of encouragement that you need to grasp onto. Those ways to bring yourself together and find God again as your partner. Like you did before. We all stray at one time or another, but God never gives up on you, and you should never give up on God. If encouragement is what you need, bend your knees in prayer. Give yourself some time to ask the Lord for some wisdom. By now you have figured it out that my favorite place to be when my life in a disaster is a place of solitude and peaceful feelings. In that respect, I find a place that suits my time and space so I can communicate with God on my terms, no interruptions and no misunderstandings. 21. In all honesty, most of my personal disasters were relationships that were broken because of the fights we had. Something I don't do that much anymore. Not because I have given up on fighting, but rather, I have found a way to deal with it better. Fighting, when all is said, is overrated and not worth the effort put into it. It just isn't worth it. Most of my previous relationships ended because of fights over money. It was always the finances that split us apart. She would do this and I would counter it with the opposite as stubbornness took a hold and nothing was solved and nothing was fixed. When both of us worked, it was always my money, your money arguments, and that caused nothing but grief as we drifted farther apart. Some arguments were about family borrowing money while others were about family or friends owing money. It was an endless road of stress and worry because there was no answer except to stop lending money to family and friends. Other fights were about infidelity, cheating, stealing, and mistrusting each other. The moral fiber of the relationship had always diminished to its lowest point before we realized it was in trouble. Then, with all the hurtful 22 words and actions taken, there wasn't much to salvage and it was best to go our own separate ways to avoid any more acts of hate or anger. By now it should be obvious to you that I failed my own advice when I needed it the most. God was there, but I never went out of my way to ask Him for help. I let things go when I should have stayed and fought for what I believed in and wanted to keep and treasure. Hence, failures are best examples of what not to do. The true victims of these separations were the children. They deserved so much more than what we gave them, and in the end, all that was lost as well, for time can heal wounds but some wounds won't heal. Being careless with those harsh words and irresponsible actions, created a division that was hard to mend. You don't ever want a war to break out inside your home, for the collateral damage is usually more than you can ever repair. When you come up to a situation that might start a war, think, pray, and decide what is the best way to deal with the controversy or matter. Don't jump to conclusions, give yourself enough credit to believe you can work this out. Realistically, you can't do this by yourself. 23. You need God's help. There are days when you might forget this, and it's good to pause and not rush into things like you might have done before. These days when it is really hard, those are the days you need to submit your heart to God and ask Him for guidance and love. Learning to submit to life is one way to learning to duck so God can come in and help you when it counts the most. Asking for Him to enter and give you wisdom, patience, and strength is how you reveal His glory and gifted with blessings that will give you the answers you are looking for. It's tough to be under pressure all the time, and when a relationship goes bad, you need all the help you can get to put it back together again. However, what you need is divine intervention, not human meddling or pandering. What counts is your faith in the belief that God is there for you. What gives you strength is that hope and desire that prayer is the answer to all your questions as you ask Him for direction on your own reflections. So rather than praying occasionally, we might need to step that up a bit to bring you and I closer to God. Perhaps an occasional attendance in 24. Church is good, but a consistent visit to God is more pleasurable and enlightening. Making it more routine than occasionally will bring the joy back in your life. The more you pray, the better you know the Lord. If you pray often to the Lord will allow you to know more and fill your mind and heart with answers. It is, after all is said, mutually benefiting. Understanding. It takes more than just having faith. Faith is measured how you live. Faith is measured how you decide and make choices. It is the light of your life and the means to find your answers to difficult problems. It is a very important thing to have and acknowledge daily, if not more. The more you pray, the more you learn. The more you learn, the wiser you get, and the more you take the time to be prudent, the better choices you make. It is all relevant, and it's important to realize that prayer is a staple of life we cannot live without. However, it must be a truthful prayer, a sincere communication between you and God. A true prayer is an honest one, that humbles your spirit and submits all power to God, and it is very personal. 25. So how does prayer impact your life? What importance does it have in the way you see things? First off, one must realize that prayer is a great privilege between you and God. The fact you can communicate and speak to our Creator and seek or invite wisdom is something we should never take for granted. Sitting down, whether you are on your knees or not, with the Lord of Lords, who knows all things, is indeed an honor. Knowing what we know about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, we would not want to perform prayer in vain, as it mocks the pain, suffering as well as His death, for He died on the cross for our sins. Surely, we do not pray to mock or slander His name and shame it in vain. Prayer is a privilege that we have received through His blood. Anything less is an insult that has grave consequences. Prayer is a growing relationship, unlike those relationships you have as a mortal, but equally important to guide you and measure the quality of life as we live it. Most poor relationships suffer because of a lack of communication. We should learn that through prayer, we learn how to communicate with each other like we do with our Father in heaven. 26. Truthfully, sincerely, and heartfelt attempts to bring back the well-being of any misunderstandings or feelings. Remember that we are at war constantly. Our war inside us is a fierce battle between good and evil. Prayer is a daily release or dosage emotionally to intentionally neutralize and demoralize the devil, which in fact is exactly the opposite of what the devil wants to do to us. This struggle or war is not against flesh or blood, but against those who control our spirits, our hearts and souls, repelling the spiritual forces of evil. Hence, when we neglect prayer, we go into battle unarmed. Our beliefs are based on our morality and mortality. We are humans with the blessed gift of free will by a loving God. Prayer is a deterrent to sin. As we, as humans, make mistakes and sin in our lives. 27. In the quiet times, an honest, truthful prayer to God exposes the excuses that we use to cater to sin. In prayer, God holds a mirror up to our lives so we can tell and see who we really are and ask for forgiveness. Faith and prayer go hand in hand. Prayer does make a difference, and although I can't explain how it works, my faith in God tells me it does work. Our lives have been changed numerous times in significant ways as we battle sins, disease, temptation, and ask for strength to fight these different kinds of immoralities. The truth be told, when you pray, you are changed. It is not enough to consider yourself a spiritual person. The number you engage, the spirit it is done with, and the reasons for your prayers can. 28. Never fall in the middle between right or wrong. It has to be the most important thing at the time to make it change. Life can be hot or cold, but when it is lukewarm, there is no resolution or satisfaction. Even in the eyes of our Lord, life is either hot or cold, good or bad, with no middle. What we strive for is the good, knowing we may fall, but that prayer can pick up back up and keep the struggle for goodness alive until we win. So when someone else says to you your life is a disaster and you need to say a prayer, thank them and take their advice. Get down on your knees and ask God to bless them as they are trying to spare you their own lessons in life, as they have been there before you and know the landmines of such matters. In most cases, because where they have been, you don't have to dwell or step over again, as that is a pure waste of time and effort. Listen to your heart when your life is in trouble and seek good advice from those you trust and love. So if your life has been blessed with good relationships, you are indeed in favor of the God who loves you. If you see or feel a disaster 29 around your relationship or marriage, maybe it's time to find another way to solve your problems. Happiness is always possible if you know how to make your life better. And it is not as hard as you might think it is if you do what most of us do. When we need help, say a little prayer. It could help you in many more ways than just one. It has often solved more than you asked for, as it is a holy realm we don't always understand, but we can feel the impact from such blessings. Fighting with power. Some people think they know how to fight well, but often forget that fighting itself might be a waste of time and effort. Unless you fight with power, you are not likely to win any battles, and for sure, you won't win no wars. 30. If you experience a lot of arguments in your relationships, and you manage to contain the damage to some degree, it doesn't mean you won any battles, it just means that the fight didn't solve anything. If one has to fight, the best solution would be to win and sometimes compromise. On the other hand, if all you do is lose these fights, you might want to consider seeking help and find a means to upgrade your power. The first thing we have to realize is that all relationships have some friction every now and then. These are things that are not always avoidable. And it is likely that even these occasional fights make you ever feel like you really won anything. The reason for that is because you haven't been praying for your Partner, or if you have, you haven't shared it with him or her. Remember, communication. This is how you make your fight stronger, but sharing your concerns and your well-wishing with your partner or spouse. However, we want to make sure that the prayers are powerful and delivered in a sound and effective manner, so go to your quiet place when you pray. That is the best place to do your fighting, and not face to face with your spouse or partner, as they are not the enemy. Then, once you have 31. Conquered the spirit of communicating, you ask or invite your partner or spouse to join you in prayer inside the prayer room, wherever that may be, and share the time and space together, in unison and harmony, to solve the things you need to work out between each other. Remember, a good fighter has a good strategy. When you identify your disasters, write them down. Each time, write them down and pray on those to make them softer or go away. A good prayer strategy is to direct your energy to the Lord and ask for wisdom, patience, understanding, empathy, or kindness for your situation. When you submit to the Lord, you get back blessings and resolutions. Fighting with your spouse or partner face to face, room to room, and house to house, gets you nowhere. Learn your scriptures, know where to begin, and ask for God to show you what they mean. The more you ask, the more you will receive in blessings and knowledge, as well as patience. You don't have to know the scriptures word by word, but you must be able to identify them and seek the meanings in prayer to find the solutions. 32. This is where you get your power. This is where you ask God to do your heavy work for you. This is power. There are many things you can do, but some things are left up to God. And if you believe and trust Him, it will be done. This is what God has been saying to you all the times you were fighting. Seek Him, trust Him. The first thing that comes to mind is time. You don't have the time to seek prayer or scriptures yet. You find plenty of time to fight with someone else. The sad part is that all this fighting has gained you nothing. You haven't won anything, even the battles are lost and war is ongoing. There is no strategy to this kind of foolish fighting. Every battle fought is a losing battle and time lost. Prayer don't take much time. Making time is important, but if you spent your time effectively, it will surely overcome an occasional church visit and much more. Remember, the first thing that counts is your trust and faith in the Lord. Trusting God is what prayer is all about. In your mind, God should have the right to direct your attention in life. He should be welcomed into your life without any reservations. He is King, He is the power. This should 33. Become a natural relationship with God, making you comfortable in every shape or form. Once this trust or bond is developed, whatever issues, concerns or problems you might have, can be directed to God, and then you learn to rely on Him for answers and solutions. Keep in mind, you must have a relationship with God to be heard or to understand the concept of forgiveness and understanding. There has to be a spirit of sincerity and awareness of sins and failures. You can't kid around with God, for He knows everything. If you want something to happen, relationships matter. Thus, as you become engaged in a closer or more intimate relationship with God so God can hear them, then God will hear them. This establishes the fact for those who do know Him and rely on Him. However, God's greatest display of His love and commitment to you is this. Jesus said, "Greater love has no one than this, that He lay down His life for His friends," which is what Jesus did for us. If God is for us, who can ever be against us? Since God did not spare even His own Son but gave Him up for us all, won't God, who gave us Christ 34, also give us everything else? The reason we pray is God's character. The first prayer God answers is your prayer to begin a relationship with God. So keep in mind this advice when you are lost in the forest. Keep in mind you are a warrior and that this warrior needs to be awakened to the power of prayer so that you have the power. No more playing games with the devil, you need to set yourself free. You can be totally lost and still realize who you are, but what is more important is to be found and realize that God is still supreme. Focusing on these faith-driven principles, use this energy to drive the devil out of your life and bring the light into your heart. Other than focusing, redirect your thoughts, your energy, love and compassion to the Lord, and He will accept that as an act of good faith on your behalf. How much time you spend with God determines how strong your relationship with Him and Jesus becomes. It is really that simple, and if you doubt this, try living without God. For some, this was the main reason for coming back to Him. Living without God is a living hell. It is chaos and disorganized. However, before you do 35 that, keep in mind how you got lost in the first place and return your attention on the good things God delivers. Keep your thoughts on the positive side of life, find the silver lining in the clouds, even if the clouds are thunderstorms above your head. Because even the rain brings good things. Change your attitude, your behaviors, and see how the day changes. With more positivity inside your mind and heart. When we are lost, most of our thoughts are almost entirely negative. If you want to change your life, you have to change your attitude and behavior. The next thing you need to do in order to restore order in your life is to stop looking at people as the enemy. They aren't your enemy or anyone else's foe. You need to realize that when you treat, or rather, mistreat people as the enemy, you are causing more anger, hate, dissension, and that comes back to you. The more you hate, the more you relinquish your power over yourself and the wellness of others. The more you become angry, the more satisfying it is for the devil to see you in that state of rage. 36. Empowerment is a powerful tool. Don't give your power to the devil. And instead, give the Lord your love, faith, and commitment, and you will receive His power in return to defeat the devil and his evil ways. When you get mad, you might think you have power just because you can yell, or make other people do what you want them to do, but in reality, you are showing your weaknesses. Besides being a bully, you are causing more pain than you may ever realize unless you awake and see the damage done. Don't act like your partner, spouse, children, or friend are the enemy. The enemy is Satan. He is the one who in all reality is your enemy. So if you really take your time and think about this, you have to realize that all this time, you have been fighting the wrong enemy. In the course of this battle, you lost your strategy to win, you lost your motivation to overcome, and you decided to live a life of deceit rather than a life of truth. In the same train of thought, you are fighting things that cause adversity in your life, things that could be better but are serious challenges. In order to put your life into the right perspectives, use the power you have. Strengthen your relationship with God. 37. Use the power within you to better your relationship with your marriage or relationship with a partner in life. Let go of those feelings towards others and focus on yourself and those you care for. Fighting for others and not your job. Fighting for yourself is when we each fight for our own survival, we can come together with a common goal and defeat the common enemy. The responsibility to keep others safe and morally straight is the primary responsibility of God and those who need His help. Forgiveness is the first step, understanding or empathy is the second. As time passes, things will change and the course of adversity will turn your power into positivity in your life. Keep loving them, and respect them and support them, but keep in mind that if you want to fight for them, say a prayer for them and let God take the fight and give him the power to make it right. You can be assured of one thing: God already knows all that needs to be fixed. God already knows your spouse, partner, family, or friend's need. Prayer. When you submit to God, you are asking Him to do those things only He can do. 38. When you plead with God, your words will make things come in line with the necessities of life. What is most important is that once you let God know what needs to be done or helped with, you have to get out of the way and let Him do it so that it is done the right way. Power isn't always about taking control of the matter. Power is about balance, choices, and sharing the burdens. However, the balance of power is how you plan your life, your activities, and your strategies. This is how you acquire power and use it for positivity and many other good purposes. Once you realize that all the times you were angry was a forfeiture of your own power, there are ways of getting that power back. Keep in mind, one major factor: the devil, Lucifer, is the master manipulator of all demons out there, and if it's one thing he wants is power. Power to control you, to dominate your life and your actions. The best way to take it back is to come to a realization that all this time, when you are angry, depressed, or even resentful of others, you were being played by the devil. The lies, the deception, and the foolish ways you acted or spoke out was all because of the evil inside of you through the power of the devil. 39. Once you see this, you will also so understand and recognize how the lies, the manipulation and relationship betrayals, are the very same tools of deceit and deception the devil has used to cause you to lose your way into the forest. These games by the demons inside of you are mind games that you stand to lose when you forget to ask the help of Jesus or the Father. Deep cuts into your own doubts, your own strengths and mind brings you to the realization you have been played and who your friends truly are. Needless to say, those who established relationships with you on pretense or falsehood will leave the moment you fail, and if you lose your job, your wealthy, or your success, those who hang with you through this are your true friends, and those who left your side were merely agents of the devil. When you submit your power to the devil, you will become weak in many different ways. On the outside, you may appear strong, but on the inside, your heart, soul and mind will be at the mercy of Satan. He is going to make you small, embarrass you and humiliate you because you have given him the power to do so. 40. Don't give away that power. Hang on to the things that make you feel good about yourself. If the devil promised you success, you have to realize that in order for that to happen, you must give him something back. Nothing is for nothing. If you want success, ask that gift or blessing from God, not Satan. Pray for it, ask for it, work for it and believe in it. If your plan includes what you believe it needs and God believes that this is what you need, God will make it happen. Keep in mind the only thing He will bless your work with gifts of satisfaction and grace, as you will, in return, give Him your love, your faith, your bonding relationship with Him. Whatever is important to you, is important to God. Loving God is never a mistake. Even on a bad day, some goodness will happen if you follow His words and maintain the positivity in His power. In time, all things that may have gone bad, will be good again. Time is on your side when God works your miracles and brings you blessings. Unlike the devil, there will be no abusive treatments, there won't 41. Be any lies and there won't be any deception. God will give you what you need and He makes no mistakes. Through prayer, faith, and commitment to follow Him, your power will be reclaimed and your power will be sufficient to take care of the things that need to be taken care of. You are in the driver's seat as this brings you the positivity back into your life. Through prayer, you break the spell of the devil and make the right decisions based on your spiritual reality, newfound wisdom and definitive conclusions, not delusions. You will be filled with a new sense of pride and self-respect. Working your way out of the bottom or abyss you might have found your life in when the skies were dark and gloomy can now be turned into light. This is how you find your way out of the forest. This is how you get back to being right with God. Getting lost in the forest happens to almost everybody. It's not an anomaly to admit you have fallen from grace. Becoming a victim of the devil is much more commonplace than anyone is willing to admit, but those who recover and find themselves lost, turn on the light and seek another. 42. Opportunity to take responsibility for their own lives and do the right things. For the right reasons. In many ways, falling is another step of rising above what and where you have been before in life. Falling does not have to mean you are weak or a victim of a power play you were either unaware of or manipulated into at the time. Being a victim does not mean you are weak, for many victims are often survivors. What you need to realize is the fact that you are retaking your power away from Satan and that you are disempowering the devil with pure and God-like thoughts and power, weakens Satan's stronghold on you. Here's a powerful mental trick to get you wandering through the forest or even through reflection. Why reflection? Because we know you have thoughts that run around and around in your head and won't let you rest or sleep. More often than not, these thoughts are counterproductive and cause more frustration and confusion. The reason for that is the lack of knowing their meanings or purposes, something God will provide for you in prayer. Reflections, even when accurately depicted, often cause more confusion from the reality. When you are lost, you are not helpless, you only think you are. This is where you reclaim your power and take away the 43. Power of others. Find something you can control and do it. It may be the relationship with God, family, or friends. It may be your prayers to God, asking Him for forgiveness and wisdom. Refocus your thoughts in your head and redirect them to the scriptures you have read, heard, or even repeated as a prayer. The better the thoughts inside you head, the better the chances of breaking loose. Find the optimism in your life and recognize it as a new beginning. Change your feelings from helplessness to worthiness and keep on trying. You can change your thoughts and change the circumstance. Be proactive on your own behalf. One step at a time, and soon you are walking away, across or around these obstacles in your life. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. 44. The Art of War, written by Sun Tzu and interpreted or translated by Lionel Giles, is an important and classic document that can be applied to any warfare, either militarily or spiritually, because they are both based on the human mind and how to win a war. Knowing your enemy is of vital importance to the battle plans to take back the power lost to the devil. Remember that a good battle plan must include an outline of importance. Recovering or reclaiming your body and soul from the devil is a matter of life and death. Certainly, there is nothing more important than survival or living. It is a choice between submitting to God or to Satan. Hence, we can claim blessings and grace from God or a road of ruin from the devil. Thus the art of war against Satan must be structured to give him no reprieve, no slack, and no glory. You must win each battle and plan it so there are no gaps of neglect or weaknesses. The first rule of fighting Satan is to follow God's laws. You must keep the law moral and do so with deliberate measures of specific methods and self-discipline. God's laws will cause you to be in complete accord with the scriptures as they are written and learn to be 45. The foundation for your thoughts and actions. Regardless of what is thrown at you by Satan, you must follow them regardless of perceived consequences. In this relationship, pray for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, and respect, perseverance and benevolence, courage and adherence. Know that by following God's law, He who knows all and everything, you will be victorious and blessed, and most of all, you shall not fail. By the means of wisdom, seek counsel and act upon it from the scriptures, and those who revel in the knowledge of such words in the Bible. Listen to those who give sound scriptural guidance or counsel. For if you deny or ignore their words or wisdom, you will suffer defeat. Be wary of those who speak with lies and selfing motives. On the other hand, if circumstances present yourself into a favorable position with God's grace, accept it as an acknowledgement that you are doing the right things. What we need to accept are two facts: God knows all and the devil's work is based on deceptions. You need to work hard and crush the influence of the devil. The more you resist, the less influence he will have over you and your thoughts. Although he will bait you with temptations, you must be prepared for such. 46. A strategy to win and find the strength to hold him at bay and eventually defeat him. The more you irritate Lucifer, the weaker he grows, as his arrogance will be attacked by your temper and power to resist him. Make your prayers come together with wiser words more often. The more you pray to God's presence, the less vulnerable you are from the devil's attacks. It is by paying attention to God's scriptures at this point that we can foresee who is likely to win or lose. This is the plan of salvation. This is the Word of God to restore your power and your faith in His presence in your life. And for every blessing, every grace, or every good thing that happens in your life, thank Him. Let Him know you recognize His power and the power you have reclaimed as you do the deeds of good morality and kindness that resembles the words of Jesus Christ as He traveled and spread the word of our God. Never be too busy for God. Remember, in your chase to success, enjoy the good things and blessings in life and never forget where those gifts came from. Never leave Jesus out of your life. People are always leaving. 47. Jesus out when, in fact, if we considered what Jesus would do, most of us wouldn't be lost in the forest or the mess we are in. Sometimes, we lose common sense along the way to the forest, but it is all recoverable. Never question God's love or ability to do things for you. In light of many wrongs, there will be many more rights. Forget the frustration and doubts about how it will turn out. God will bring you redemption, recovery, and celebrations. You deserve grace. We all deserve grace. Keep in mind what the Bible says. The good book says there is nobody who is righteous, perfect, or without sin. We have all sinned. So in reality, none of us deserve grace but by the means of asking God for forgiveness. It comes down to this. Jesus shed His blood on the cross. He died for you, even when you feel like you did not deserve it. And He rose from the grave and offered forgiveness and salvation for anyone who turns to Him. But the Bible also says that we can't ask Him to forgive us while refusing to forgive others. This is a powerful message to remember. This is so hard for us to do or understand, but this is where grace comes into play. God gives us grace as we give it to others even when they 48. Don't deserve it in your eyes, but in your heart, you forgive and ask God to help them as your will to Him, as we cannot sit in judgment of others. This act, by itself, will free you and strengthen your will and soul. In the art of war, if you want victory, you must first learn how to surrender. During times of troubles, trust Him, trust God, and then you can focus on the enemy within you, Satan. The one that wants to remain hidden. The one that wants to distract you and deceive you and divide you from the Lord and the rest of your world. You see, that's how he works. Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And when you work your way into a state of confusion, wandering and lost in the forest, he is stealing your happiness, he is killing your faith in the Lord, and he is trying to destroy all things that have a meaning to you and those you love. Many times, when you engage in fighting, there are no victors, just losers. But in the case of fighting Lucifer, you need to know that if he lays siege on your body and spirit, he will exhaust your strength to fight him back, and therefore, you need to ask God for help and give you that added strength you need to fight your real enemy, Satan. 49. Without God's help, you will not be equal to the strain or burdens of combat with the devil. Without God's inspiration, motivation, and replenished weapons of words and wisdom, your weapons will be dulled, your ardor dampened, and your strength exhausted. Keep this in mind when you engage in combat with the devil. No man, however wise, cannot be able to avert the consequences of fighting Lucifer without serious damage, as his cleverness and successful strategies of long delays in progress benefits him in this kind of warfare, unless you find a way to thoroughly know who you are fighting and acquainted with the evils of this type of war with the devil. This requires you to seek scriptural wisdom to carry it on. Bring as much war material with you that you can carry inside your heart, head, and spirit. Forage as much as you can from the enemy, Lucifer. All you need is already written and spoken. 50. What you need to win is to know your enemy along with the knowledge to know what you need. Keep him at a distance through your relationship with God and prayers. Contribute more to God and put the devil at a distance. When the substance of evil is drained away, the enemy will fail and your soul will become filled or solvent with strength and wisdom. With the devil's loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, he will leave you to find another. His will to own you shall be dissipated and vanished. If one is to be possessed with anger, let the roused anger be used to the advantage of defeating the enemy. This will bring you your earned rewards. As one of God's soldiers, fly the flag of God proudly, never substitute it for any other flag, and may it fly the highest. Make it visible who you love. 51. And who you have favored. The flag of God shall tell others the nature of your heart. Once conquered, you have augmented your own strength to show your victory and live with peace, not peril. I would get my heart right with God and leave the will of Satan behind me, and I will do what I need to do with prayer and strengthening my relationship with God every day of my life. A lesson learned from personal experience that I am sharing because it's the right thing to do. The more you pray, the more you are gaining ground on the enemy and find his weaknesses so you can kick him out of your home, your body, and your heart. With the word of God there is always hope. It's time for you. 52. To fight the real enemy. It's time for you to take off the gloves and do it right. There is no magic in this battle, it is said by the scriptures, who you plan and lay down the plans to defeat the devil. The key is to let the Heavenly Father see your strength, your motivation, and your desire to be with him and not Satan. He will reward you. Get rid of life's distractions. Simplify your needs in your life and cast away those things that are nothing but window dressings of self-importance or vanity. Focus on your heart and the hearts of those you love and care for. Acknowledge He is God, and that in order to win this war with your enemy within you, you need Him. Show your gratefulness for your blessings. Count them as you go, but Don't take them for granted. Let this new-found spirit lift you in your needs and confess your love for him. Confess and forgive and freely express your love for him. Love him as he takes care of you and pray for those who need his help as well as your own. Privately and publicly, pray for those the Lord brings into your heart and mind. Take your time, do it often and listen to. 53. Your heart. Don't rush the feelings and don't rush the expectations. It will all come together if you are patient, listen and obedient to your heart. Show your passion and desire to bring him into your world. Tell him, God, I need you, and see the miracles happening around you, and tell him, Lord, I know I have prayed to you before, but never have I ever needed you more now than ever, for I haven't followed you like I should have done, but now, I am surrendering my whole life to you. Lord, I need you. Tell God why you are so angry and tell him that you will forgive those who trespassed your heart with all your love and blessings. For yourself, ask him to forgive you and your imperfections. This is the best time to be honest with God as well as yourself. Remember, God already knows what's inside your heart. In any practical war, there will be attacks of deception, trickery and lies. The best way to defeat the enemy within is to not fall to pieces. In order for you to destroy the devil, you must be able to recapture your own heart, soul and mind as it realizes that all that was possessed before was nothing but deceit. 54. What is done with constant prayer is to fight and conquer with excellence, supreme excellence. It is designed to break the enemy's resistance. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. The highest form or excellence is to balk at the enemy's plans and strengthen your position of love, forgiveness, and patience. The rule to not besiege the devil directly is to ask for God's help through prayer. The more you ask the Lord for help and show how much you need him, the more he will fight the enemy for you. It's a rational process easily understood through your prayers and constant relationship with him. Control your irritation, control your own emotions and acquire firm self-control. Let God dispute the mastery of the devil, let the triumph be complete through the works of God and his power. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. 55. Remember, you as a human cannot match the devil in strength or desire to conquer one another. He is more than twice as numerous as you. Therefore, you ask for God to intervene on your behalf. When you realize you are not equally matched, you can offer battle with the help of God and avoid attacking the enemy directly. That is how you overcome your inequality and your inferior power to fight Satan. The only way you can conquer or defeat Satan is to have a force greater than him. God is greater than all, and it is him who can defeat Satan. Do not become arrogant or ignorant of the fact that you need to obey God's words and scriptures. Do not take them for granted. Do not become restless in mind and exercise patience. Do not exhaust your faith in believing that God is supreme and that his power shall defeat the enemy without discrimination. He will seek what needs to be done to set you free of the negative and evil influences of this beast. The way God attacks, shakes the devil's confidence and cause him to think of leaving your body and soul as it is being invaded with constant pure thoughts of God's will and words. 56. As soon as you change towards the will of God, your enemy will sense your new feelings and restlessness. It is then when the enemy becomes distrustful of his own ability to control you and simply choose a better host to live in, rather than yours. God will know who to fight and when not to fight. He will win and knows how to handle the devil's forces. He will win and disseminate the righteous spirits, he will win because the enemy is unprepared or unable to fight back. For it is said that if you know the enemy, and God knows the devil, and know yourself, you need not fear the result of hundreds of battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, you will suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Do not engage in judgments. Let God do the judging. Don't let the hate or the anger take over. Release these feelings and ask God for help in this battle for self-control. In many ways, you are asking the Lord to take over your ability to control and take your heart and all its anger. When you do this, you will be able to love again, you will see the goodness in people, and feel the peace inside of you. 57. Remember the enemy of trickery and deceit. Remember that the devil, who is the true enemy, comes only to steal, to kill, and destroy. Whatever it needs to capture your soul and change your life to serve him as one of his servants. Knowing with confidence and having complete faith, walking with God will give you a good life and an abundance of love. Your belief that God is faithful and that he will never abandon you, will strengthen and protect you from the evil enemy within you. Submit to God. Resist the devil, and he 58. Will flee. All this time, the enemy has been playing tricks on your mind, confusing you in life's priorities. When you reclaim your power, you also reclaim your abilities to make better decisions. In essence, the devil is done when the spirit is conquered by the Spirit of God. What that means is your life does not have a place for evil to exist anymore. There is no place for your enemy's wishes to lie, destroy, or kill inside of you. But don't be fooled. You need to work on this daily and keep the devil at a distance, if you want to be happy with your life and your relationship with God. Therefore, with God's help and you praying to him with your needs, he can take away the lies, devious schemes and accusations, falsely constructed or fabricated by the devil. The more you praise your love for God and Jesus Christ, the stronger you will become. What would that mean for you personally? Where do you go when you fight the enemy and you are standing close to God as you are winning the very same battles you have lost before? How do you handle this new approach of freshness and purity in thought and actions? The truth is very hard to accept, but you won't know 59. The truth until you cast out your enemy from within you. For as long as the devil has a stronghold inside you, he has hopes of regaining his strengths and bring you back under his control again. This is the peril of the relationship with God, as once you begin this journey, you can never let up and allow Satan back into your life. It has been said that good fighters with good experience have put themselves beyond the possibilities of defeat and often waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. In this case, there are no such opportunities that you can afford to wait on. Once this war inside you has begun, you must keep on fighting it until you have won and Satan flees. That's how we secure ourselves against defeat, with our own hands and energy. Most of the time, the energy is provided by the enemy himself, but as God knows all there is to know, defeat is done at the hands of God. Securities against defeat requires perseverance and faith all the time. Not most of the time. It takes standing against immensely difficult odds and taking the offensive rather than a defensive stance. God will help you gather that strength and energy to perform such a feat. 60. He is skilled in the secrets of the enemy. He knows when to strike and how to strike in his attack from the topmost heights of heaven. With God, we have the ability to protect ourselves and see the possibilities of victory are near. A victory that will mean freedom of the evilest power there is on earth, Satan. Yet in this victory, you will not see the sun any brighter, the moon any higher or the stars any nearer. With victory, the noise of the thunder is no different than before, but where it has changed is inside your heart, your core values and your inner peace. However, these victories will also bring you more freedom, more happiness and more blessings from God above. Your reputation will be replenished and restored, as well as your courage and wisdom. You will win many things back that you have lost before you surrendered to the devil. For that I am sure. You will not miss the moment of defeat of the enemy. You will relish the victorious spirit as your own freedom at last. Once you are freed of the devil, your life will cultivate God's law and add to those standards the moral laws. You will be a reborn with new 61 methods of thinking and new tools for self-discipline. Thus, through this struggle, you will learn how to control your own success, energy and timing. Once freed from the devil, your body and mind will be under new management. No more stealing of joys and unnecessary pains, no more confusion and being lost without a clue where to turn next. Your pilot will be God and your course has been set. Everything will be changing. Although there is no perfection promised to you after you find yourself, the fact that you know where you are going is a blessing by itself. Your main joy will be in finding Jesus and the words he spread when he prophesied for God in the mortal world. Do not think that hell will not exist or is forgotten. It will remain where it is, but you won't be dwelling in it like before. You are now one step closer to heaven. There will still be temptation, the devil will never give up in tempting you to come back to him. It will take relentless energy to 62. Sustain these attacks on your morality, your faith, and your love for God and His Son, Jesus Christ. Satan will try to destroy the spirit that now moves you closer to heaven. He will always be ready to attack you when he senses a weakness inside of you. He will try it and you must resist it. Since you have learned how to pray, how to attack and how to ask for help from God along the way, you must now sustain your energy to keep your mind and spirit clean of the devil's enticements and attractions. They will be shown and presented to you, they will tempt you and they will try to win you back to the dark side. Remember this: do not fight God but always fight the devil. You shouldn't fight God, for he will always win. On the other hand, if you ask the Lord to help you, the devil will always lose. So keep praying and communicating with God through your prayers and deeds. Remember, God knows all and actions speak louder than words. At the very least, if you want God to fight for you, then the least you can do is believe in Him and follow Him, knowing that it will be exhausting but 63. Well worth the effort. Nothing in life comes easy when it comes to temptations, but if you let Him fight for you, you can win. Taking control and losing control depends on your ability to use your energy for those difficult situations. Conserving your energy is rarely possible when it comes to combating the evil that surrounds us, and doubts will always invade your faith when matters get hard and confusing. Being lost in the forest is about finding the way to sustain the journey that has been promised to you by God when He saves you from the devil. Remaining free from the evilness around you means instituting signs and signals of God's faith and power inside and outside of you. It will be resemblance to an outward verbal and physical expression of love and conviction towards God. To ensure there are no misunderstandings, your entire body must host the Word of God in words and actions, and you must remain faithful and loyal to Him so that you may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain unshaken, unaffected, and uninterested is the evil ways, to keep winning your battles between good and evil. This is effected by maneuvers, direct and indirect, that shows everyone how you intend to live and what 64. God's law and moral laws have done for you in bettering your life with the newfound energy inside of you. When fighting the devil or the real enemy Inside of you, it is best to fight the indirect method in order to secure a victory. One cannot defeat the enemy without God's help and encouragement. Indirect tactics, when effectively applied, are infinite or inexhaustible as is heaven and earth. It gives the person in control unlimited resources to continue these attacks in a perpetual motion. 65. Energy should be calculated and proportioned to the needs at hand. A good flow of energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to releasing of a trigger. If one is wise, you may perpetuate turmoil and chaos in the battles, you may benefit from disorder, and that will be proof against defeat. What appears to be disorder suggests perfect discipline, as well as simulated fear suggests courage, and simulated weakness assumes strength. One can see the coyness in these tactics of war and deceiving the enemy of the real power behind the strategy. Thus the strategy or plan is to keep the devil off his toes, to keep him on the move, and through maintained appearances, all are those to which the enemy will act as God baits him and then smashes his spirit, that will cause him to leave you and find another to possess. This combined energy of God and you, working together, will throw off any enemy and keep it off balance. It will give you the strength you need to continue your prayers, your love and faith in God, and carry that 66 momentum into another round of battle, so the enemy either surrenders, moves on, or gives up on you and finds another. You must ask God for strength and wisdom. You must be maintained fresh to battle the fight. Although God will carry most of the burdens, He will expect you to do your part and be ready to act when He calls upon your energy to be fresh for the fight. Nobody should fight a battle with exhaustion. In other words, do not exhaust yourself before battle, for it is the battle that will exhaust your energy. Therefore, the clever fighter imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. If God replenishes you and your mind with food and strength, and makes you well supplied with support, then you can force the enemy to move out and depart quickly. It is important to remember that food can be words, scriptures, and guidance offered or available for better learning and understanding. One cannot win a fight when distressed or exhausted. God will ensure you will not be attacked at those places that are not defended. He will 67 assure you the safety of your defense only if you hold your position like He has said for you to do. Listening to God is most important. These attacks from God will be plentiful, and the enemy will not know which to defend and have no time to counterattack. Through the divine art of subtlety and a secret pact between you and God, will the enemy learn of your strength and defensibility. Together, you hold the enemy's fate in your hands. God will advance and the enemy's resistance will be futile. Hitting him at his weakest points, he may retire and be safe from God's pursuit. So it stands as the devil miscalculates God's attacks more rapidly than he can handle. God's will be the wish to prevent the enemy from engaging us together, even though our strength, energy, and determination outlasts that of the devil. Everything we do will be effective and impact the enemy's disposition to remain, to fight or take flight, and chose another day to battle. Energy and time are common denominators of a good fighter. 1. Must know when they possess the strength to fight and know the place and 68. The time to come into battle. Sometimes, this is done or activated by desperation. Other times, it is created when the view of life has become so clouded, so obscured, and so difficult, you can't see the forest through the trees. This is the time you know that you need to focus and re-establish your life to bring back the order, the security, and the safety you once had in life, when things were not so much in chaos. There is no perfect time to fight, but there is always a good time to ask the Lord for help or forgiveness. How much help you have at the time to battle the enemy is based on your willingness to commit to the battles ahead and stay the fight until it is won and victory is yours. One cannot leave the forest until you know which path to take to see the light. It is not only common sense but a principle of good thinking to know your options as you dwell into the light and coming out of the darkness. Without the help of God, the enemy may be stronger. In some ways, this contributes to feelings of apathy or reluctance to fight even without the 69. Help of God. When the likelihood of success is slim, the courage to fight is dim. It is when you are aroused, angered, or even pushed to the limits when you learn the principle of asking God for help and show Him how much you need Him. Submit to God and the devil will flee. Resist the devil and God will make you victorious. For God knows what force to use and where the vulnerable spots are on your enemy. God has battled Lucifer before and knows of his strategies better than you do. Without God on your side, the devil's strength is super abundant and your efforts will be anything but deficient in cause or matter. In making practical decisions and dispositions, God will guide you, while keeping you safe from the enemy through the manifestation of good thoughts and the cleverest and prudent of brains our Creator. How victory may be produced come out of the enemy's own tactics, that is what the gathering of thoughts we cannot comprehend as mortal humans. 70. God knows the enemy well, He knows that you cannot repeat the same tactics that might have gained a victory before, as the enemy is adaptive and clever. He lets his decisions be regulated by his infinite wisdom to decide what tactics are best for most circumstances. In this war with Satan, one must know the way to avoid being weak and when to appear strong as well as when to strike at what was weakest. In this journey out of the forest, you must trust God to know all that is needed or required to be victorious. You must know He is sovereign of all of those around us, including the enemy, Satan. 71. Over time, what amounts to centuries of fighting with demons and the devil, he has collected an arsenal of weapons and wisdom that exceed that of all, including the devil himself. It was this time and energy that created opportunities. There is nothing more difficult than to cast out the evil spirits inside of man. There is nothing more complex than understanding how to fight or combat such a beast without losing the battles or in the end, the war. The devil is crafty and deviously tactical in his maneuvers. He consistently turns the devious into the direct and misfortune into gain. A gain that seeks control of the mind, the body, and spirit. So let God dictate the time and place, let God determine when the right time is to strike at the enemy. He knows how to entice the enemy out of hiding, He knows how to reach out and find the means to destroy his hold on you. Maneuvering without the help of God is dangerous. Not once would a mortal be advised to battle Satan without the help of God. For many, it would mean instantaneous slaughter, a defeat that the devil can celebrate in with joy and laughter. 72. Psalm 23, The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, He leads me beside quiet waters, He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for You are with me. Your rod and Your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely Your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It is important that we realize that we cannot enter into alliances with the enemy within. There are no compromises in this battle or war. This is a fight to the end, so don't get acquainted with any of the devil's designs or works except to know more about your enemy. You have to remember, you are not fit to lead this attack on the devil by yourself. Many have tried and many have failed. Unless you are familiar with the entire continuum of the devil's evilness and strategies, your fight will end as a failure. You cannot turn any natural advantages towards your account unless you are familiar with the territory of the devil. Unlike God, your knowledge 73 is limited and scarce, considering God has been battling evil from the very beginning. In war, practice dissimulation and you will succeed. Never allow yourself to be divided when faced with the devil. Always ask God to help you and never lose faith under any circumstances. Let God be the rapidity of the wind, and be like fire, immovable like a mountain. Let his strengths guide you as he plans to attack Satan day and night. Never impenetrable as night can be to you, and striking at the devil like a thunderbolt of lightning with a force that no man can withstand or lash out. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move, and pray along the way towards this goal of defeating the enemy. Together, with God's help, you will conquer through the art of deviation, calculation, and deliberations. In the end, he will conquer who has learned the trick of aberration, such is the art of maneuvering. Keep in mind your energy and your spirit. It has been said in war that a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning, by noonday, it has begun to drag. And in the evening, his mind is bent only on returning to a place of rest, a bed or a nest where he can sleep and fight the fight all over again. 74. A clever fighter, therefore, avoids the pitfalls of lethargy and battles when the spirit is high, sharp, and keen, but attacks the devil when it gives signs of being sluggish and inclined to quit or continue to fight. This is the art of studying moods. Know your enemy and be disciplined and calm. Wait for the words or signs of God to give you the wisdom, and watch how your strategies confuse the devil and give him some appearance of disorder, and therefore, retaining the hopes of victory. Be careful, do not quit when you are near the goal of victory. Do not wait and stand at ease while the enemy is toiling hard and struggling to survive the battles. Be well fed with scriptures and prayers, this alone will help famish the enemy of its strength. Do not swallow the bait or false promises offered by the enemy. It is true that when you are in strange territory, you seldom camp or relax. In strange land, you join hands with God as your ally. You do not linger in dangerously isolation and alone positions. Always keep God close to you through spirit and prayer. 75. In hemmed-in situations, turn to God for strength. You must know how to react and position yourself to fight this enemy. You must fight and never lay down before the devil, as the battle with God on your side will surely be won. In the meantime, examine your life and your decisions. There are roads that must not be followed, to be trapped or attacked when weak. The devil shall besiege you every way and every time he gets a chance or season. Opportune moment. Every minute of your time, you must be willing to obey God and follow through with his advice. God understands these advantages against the devil. He knows how to handle these ways to defeat Satan. It is God's will you follow his words carefully and precisely. Through his words, you will become well versed in the art of war and his plans. You must read the Bible and become acquainted with his words for prayer and advantages as you learn how to make the best use of them. As you learn more about God's ways, you also become skilled in his expectations, how to succeed and how to accomplish his essential plans. 76. Be prepared for setbacks and misfortunes. There are always challenges set that are most difficult to handle during such trying times. Do not falter your faith, strength, and keep your relationship strong and bonding. Seize the advantages given and extricate yourself from the drama and falsehoods provided by the devil's deceitful ways and appearances. Do not rush into any situation, be patient, pray for wisdom and strength and find solace to be with God when you feel the devil is inflicting damage on you. The more you connect with God, the more you damage Satan. Remain engaged and hold out the devil's allurements and never rush into anything that is said or promised except by God Himself. In order to win these battles, you must be ready and prepared at all times, knowing the devil is coming day or night. Your own readiness to receive and bond with God is the answer. Do not underestimate the devil's willingness to attack you, but rather, be ready to have made your position prepared and unassailable in manner and shield. Do not become reckless, overconfident, or show cowardice. This will only lead to self-destruction. Temper your voice, your mind, and your 77. Tongue. Do not provoke without God's advice and let Him support your worries and troubles. He will help you through the entire battle. He will not leave your side. Thus your own conduct in this war can also be the ruinous nature to the conduct of war. Do not break God's laws when battling evil. When you feel weak or subject to temptations, let those moments be a subject of meditation. Remember, in this war, there are no peace proposals and no sworn covenants other than God's law. Be aware of the lures of sin and temptations. Do not attempt to fight the battle by yourself. Ask the Lord and tell the Lord how you feel. Clamor during the fight betokens nervousness, and although anxiety is good for it keeps you awake, you must remain alert at all times. Do not let sedition set a hold on you, do not falter in your sleep, and do not become angry or frustrated, or it may show the enemy you are becoming weary. Do not whisper to the Lord, tell Him out loud how much you love Him. Show your admiration, your amour, and let it be your armor. Show no disaffection, as it will divide you and others and plays into the hands of the devil. 78. The battle will be victorious, and there should be no fright with the Lord Almighty on your side. He will show supreme intelligence in numbers against the enemy. If the devil expresses words or acts of kindness, that means he wishes for a truce. Never quit, and always remember to fight until the battle is fought as hard as it could be fought and the war is won. He who exercises no forethought but makes light of his opponents is sure to be captured by them. Do not punish yourself or others during this battle, as you need allies to win the war. Do not become submissive except to God. If others become submissive to the principles of the fight, they are useless, and you cannot depend on them to fight along your side. Most of all, if you show confidence, others will follow, and with God's strength, wisdom and plan, the gains will be mutual and God's law will be obeyed. Those are the words of encouragement when times are dark and everything depends on how you wage your battle against your enemy, Satan. Finding your way home. 79. Fighting a war depends on the environment fought. One has to distinguish the advantages and disadvantages of engaging the enemy. If you choose your environment carefully, you will avoid defeat by getting entangled in a useless battle fought without any plans or strategies. Only a fool has no plans to resist the devil, and only a fool will fight the devil without the help of God. You must be aware of what is accessible ground and temporizing ground. Keep in mind, there are no shortcuts to be victorious. Each environment chosen determines the result of the battle, and each battle determines the end of the war. It means that if your battles are fought in your mind, the heart, or spirit, your wellness is of most importance to avoid weaknesses or disease. From a position of this sort, if the enemy is unprepared, you may sally forth and defeat him. But if the enemy is prepared for your coming, and you fail to defeat him, then, return being impossible, disaster will ensue. Be aware of several calamities that might incur or be inflicted by the battle or unnatural, spiritual, causes. When choosing battle, one has many options. 80. Each one should be embraced as part of God's plan to defeat the devil. But be aware of these things, as some are serious faults. This is where your wisdom plays into your acts or behaviors or decisions. There are the fight or flight actions, insubordination to God's will, the collapse of your faith in prayer and God's laws, the ruination of your spirit to keep the fight going, and disorganization of thoughts and actions. Any combination of such actions will result in a rout of your own spirits and a rout for your fight with Satan. If you submit, you will lose the war. If all other conditions remain equal and your environment is clean of sins and temptations, consider this as an explanation to these option of war. If Satan hurls his power against you and you don't ask God for his help, you will take flight. You cannot win. If you see yourself as weak and insubordinate to God's will and law, your battle plan will collapse as your faith collapses right before your eyes. Do not engage in anger or frustration. Act within God's authority and follow His words with acknowledgement and thankfulness through prayer and love. Avoid feelings of resentment and avoid a ruination of your struggles to challenge the devil. Focus your energy on the enemy. 81. Listen well to God, make sure you understand His words of guidance. If you remain calm, clear and distinct structures will follow. When set in a plan that is organized in thought and action, you will avoid hesitation, motivation and disorganization. Never underestimate the devil or his strength. He is no pushover and can defeat you if you are careless or overconfident. He can outflank you with his power and may cause you panic that would result in a rout. Those are the flaws of battle. These are the lessons we learned from the art of war. On Sun Tzu, getting lost is mutual and shared by many. As the fight to return back to the light out of the darkness has been a common struggle for many of us who get lost in the forest, we have the opportunity to get back in the good graces of God by doing His work, will and following His lawful commandments. Finding their way back to God is an experience that happens to most people who know what they long for, but then begin to notice that certain things aren't like they used to be or should be as adversity happens over and over, challenging their measure of faith in God and their religion. Not every journey is the same and not every struggle is successful. It takes a 82. Spiritual awakening to realize you are either missing something in your life, or you have become lost and stumbled off the path that you thought would keep you safe and protected from your enemy within you. Struggling to find a happy medium means no compromising with the devil. You can't have it both ways. One can see how this conflict quickly turns into turmoil if you drop your guard and find yourself consumed with sin and temptation. It happens to many who travel this journey with God. I believe in the return of the prodigal son story. I believe we all face failures and invitations. 83. With or without the help of the devil, and make decisions that are rather harmful but through lessons learned become a major part of our education. An ability to survive or teachings that everything happens for a reason. Being lost from God has its own reasons. When I received the revelation of how to approach the best way to find God again in my life, I learned that one has to experience certain things in life in order to understand them better. For example, Jesus Christ, our Savior, lived among sinners and thieves. Not only did He eat and live with them, He used His ministry to teach of His healing and redemptive power. He replied to His critics by asking them two important questions. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after that which is lost, until he find it? Luke 15:4. What woman having 10 pieces of silver, if she loses 1 piece, doth not light a candle, and sweep the house, and seek diligently till she finds it? Luke 15:8. 84. The Savior then teaches the parable of the prodigal son. This parable isn't about 100 sheep or 10 pieces of silver, it is about one precious son who is lost. Through the parable, what does the Savior teach us about how to respond when a family member loses his or her way? The prodigal son informs his father that he wants his inheritance. Now, he wants to leave the safety of his home and family and seek after worldly pursuits. See Luke 15:1213. In the Savior's parable, the father lovingly responds by giving the son his inheritance. Certainly the father must have done everything he could to convince the son to stay. However, once the adult son makes his choice, the wise father lets him go. The father then demonstrates sincere love, and he watches and he waits. See Luke 15:20. How many of us have seen or experienced similar experiences? I had 2 outstanding parents. Although they were not deeply involved in religion, they taught us right from wrong and effectively gave us a sound foundation to build from and become stronger in faith and wisdom. We all made it successfully to adulthood without ending up in jail, prison or another antisocial trait that repels the goodness of 85. Mankind. This makes us more fortunate than others who suffer in jail and prisons and sometimes forgotten by those they love. I was in prison and you came to visit me. I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. Matthew 25:36, 40. If Jesus were on earth today, would we find him in the prisons, talking and dining with the most loathed criminals and outcasts? Of course. We would. He would be there to seek and to save the lost. 86. The scripture passages in this article give us insight into God's heart for prison ministry. We hope you will be encouraged to follow Jesus into the prisons as well as into your community to minister to prisoners, ex-prisoners, and their families. Nothing in this book should be construed to be in favor of any church or religion. On the same note, nothing should be omitted and nobody should be excluded when it comes to getting lost in the forest, even when the forest ends up being a jail or prison. Having first-hand experience in prison or jail circumstances and conditions, there are 2 kinds of people put in these places: those who were wrongfully accused and victimized by an unjust system, and those who are guilty and whose punishment is just according to the system of law they have broken. In building a relationship with God and leaving the influences of the devil, the Bible recommends truth and submission to the laws of the government as well as God's laws. For doing so will offer it freedom from the spiritual prison of sin. Herein meant that spiritual freedom comes from or through the love of Jesus Christ, Romans 6:18. To the innocent and wrongfully accused, the Bible offers peace, patience, and hope in difficult circumstances, as well as the hope of heavenly reward. 87. When we accept the fact that God's laws were used to institute governmental regulations and rules, we accept the fact that they were put there to protect people from other people or calamities and to maintain order during times of chaos. We understand, and we make no excuses for lawbreakers, as if a person knowingly breaks the laws of the land. The Bible says that person will bear the punishment for his actions, Romans 13:14. If going to jail or prison is the appropriate punishment for what a person has done, according to the laws of his nation, the Bible does not excuse that person or seek to free him. The Bible calls submission to rules and authorities good, Titus 3:1. We are not to commit crimes, 1 Peter 4:15. However, the Apostle Paul and most of the other apostles were jailed at one time or another for preaching the gospel. If obedience to God's word is considered a crime for which one should be jailed, then we, who believe in God and Jesus Christ, are to continue in obedience to God, even if prison is the result. Acts 5:29. The Bible does not promise freedom from struggle or from injustice in this world. However, in the world to come, there will be perfect justice. Isaiah 32:1. Until that time, God promises to set us free spiritually and 88. Emotionally. Wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom even inside a jail cell. 2 Corinthians 3:17. This is a crucial time of hope and love for those behind bars. We should learn empathy and follow Jesus's example and open up our hearts to those who need His help as well as His grace. Jesus identifies strongly with the weak, the helpless, and the outcast. He considers the way we treat them to be the way we treat Him. He wants us to identify with them as well, putting ourselves in their shoes and caring for them. Over time I learned the gospel from various sources, church groups or individuals who sought to teach the Bible as a means to educate others on the scriptures and prophecies of the church they believed in. In time some of us drifted from the scriptures more than others. I for one doubted my faith several times and fought hard to regain the confidence I had in the beginning when I was close to God and His teachings. Even while I was mocked or criticized, I found myself doing the same thing on some of the ways the scriptures told us to live and ignored what should have been guidance. 89. I was in all actuality a bad example. During the time of stress, anxiety, and frustrations, there comes this that shouts out something like, "There's got to be more to life." We all feel the longing for love, purpose and meaning. Wandering into the forest extenuates this feeling that longs us to satisfy most of us of these perceived selfish expectations. We lose track of the understanding of God's ways and will to communicate closely with Him to forget that running away from God is not the answer. 90. A feeling of remorse or regret often dominates those possessed with guilt for abandoning God and the Scriptures. When we recklessly abandon those things that were taught to us by the parables of the Bible, we end up being alone, wandering in circles, and most of all confused, dazed in a cloud-like situation, struggling to recover from this absence of faith and wisdom. In my life, this cycle of awakening to regret and longing has happened more than once, and in fact, when you actually take account of how many times and how long these cycles last, one fact I have learned is that no matter what happens, you can't start over, but you can improve your position by getting your act together and organize your thoughts and actions. You have to realize that any godless relationship stands to be a losing relationship, and that such matters of concern usually leads to regrettable decisions and action that I am sorry does not take care of or erase from the fact that it happened. Ironically, and sometimes pathetically, you repeat this sorry cycle of trying to live life without God and end up making a bigger mess than it was before. In the end, you know something has to give and change the urge. 91. To ask for help is there but often ignored, and through failures, time after time, you find out you can't do this change on your own. In many cases, you hit a rock bottom spot in your life that is harder to get out of than ever before. When we get lost in the forest, it is often the time we come to our senses. We need help. And that help is Jesus Christ, who knows how to get you out of this mess you are in. Through Jesus, you learn again how to love yourself and others as well as Him. He is the source that will lead you back to God. Remember this: when you choose Jesus as your guide, the enemy within you will revolt and fight you tooth and nail to keep that from happening. You will be ambushed by his vindictiveness and evil as you confront your senses. The devil will drown you in a shadow of darkness that shouts out shame and guilt for what you have done. He will deceive you through every means possible and try to turn you around and abandon your will to follow Jesus. Through his lies, he will try to convince you that with all that shame and sin, there is no hope of turning this around and that you are just perfect the way you are. 92. On the other hand, Jesus will show you that you are loved no matter what you endured and that he loves you just the way we are, but that we can work hard to improve ourselves to meet God's will and bring peace and tranquility in your life. This is when you are most desperate and lost in the forest. This realization comes clear and focused when you are lost and seeking clarity in your life. Clarity that is spurred by an awakening in your life. A discovery where you realize you must get rid of the baggage that spoils the inside of you and keeps you from living life to the fullest. 93. This can only be done by following Jesus. Through Jesus, you will get back to the graces of God and understand life as it was meant to be lived. For everyone, this may be a different way but consistent with God's will and laws. Using the battle plan above and spreading it out to fight the enemy within you, it become clear that your path out of the forest and closer to God is not going to be easy. It takes perseverance, stamina, and an inherited amount of faith to know what you are looking for, know how to acquire it, and then maintain a lifestyle that is fulfilling and complete as your faith and belief in God remains intact and your spiritual trajectory has soared above any other levels in your lifetime. According to Gallup, 92% of people in the United States believe in God. When asked with whom they affiliate, the majority responds, none. None is how the majority of Americans now identify their religious or spiritual affiliation. This group is the group we are targeting who are lost in the forest. They are in fact, when all is said, in transition, on a journey and searching. 94. In many ways, I am a prodigal son who returns home to find where I belong. My home may not be a church, but my home has the Spirit of God inside it as well as inside my body. As we walk through life, all of us need to understand how to find our way back to God. 95. 96.